Whether you call it recipe, recipe, or recipe, it means the same thing. And why would the recipe be so important for a restaurant? Because it provides consistency in the production of menu items, and also the recipes provide food cost controls, and also unifies the communication between the staff who does sales and the admins or the back office that is involved with inventory management. So recipe forms a very integral part of the management of the hotel, and with the recipe you will be able to align prices and also your inventory control practices. Now we are going to tell you how you can be able to use Ji-POS to make recipe and to get your reports right.
So just to start with, recipe is one of the components or the modules in Ji-POS. So if you are not able to see it in the quick access links in the dashboard, there's a button here for recipe. Or if you're not able to see it under products, recipe, the last item in that category, then that means that particular module hasn't been enabled for your account or in your account. So just contact the administrator to enable it for you. Now, what do we need to create a recipe, or what must be pre-configured? These are the prerequisites needed to create a recipe. First and foremost is items that you'll need to create this particular recipe. Those items must be registered in the system under the products and items section, that is the item registry, with the right unit set, so that while making the recipe, the system can automatically calculate the approximate price that you're using or the approximate cost used in creating this particular recipe. So the items must be configured well, and I'll just quickly open for you an item section just to show you what needs to be configured. I'll click product and items and just get one item. For example, we have got the 4th Street here. I'll just open this one particular item. So in this particular item profile, we have got one key component here called the item unit. You can see it here. The bottle, these are a unit and bottle. It can be in pieces, liters, grams, kilograms, pieces, and any other portion. So this must be configured right to the least expected, and of course this particular price is a unit price, that is $6.50 per bottle in this case. Yeah, so that has to be configured. The item must be registered before we create any given recipe. So I'll just take another sample item. So in this case, we are going to use 2 different products. We'll take the 4th Street with the code 0099, and we'll also take the 8 p.m. 750 ml or with the code 0085 and the code. We have what the unit set to bottle, which is okay. We'll use that to create a recipe, call it cocktail 4th Street or something. Yeah. So that is the first thing that we have to ensure, because while the recipe will be created, the calculations in terms of pieces you're going to define will be per this unit, and that particular deduction in terms of stock control and stock reduction will be per that particular unit figure set in the recipe. So then I'll go or jump directly into the recipe and I'll just click product recipe and I'll be here. So this is where we'll be creating our recipe, and all the created recipes will be listed or will be shown at the bottom of this particular page, where we have got the first one. A well-configured recipe gives you better control of your stock, and that is going to be evident if you configure this well. There's that particular aspect of stock control, whereby I sell my recipe items. The ingredients that were defined during building of this recipe will be auto-reduced in this particular stores, which are predefined. The second one is affected store per sale. We have got this particular field called affected store per sale, and you can see it here. What happens is that you define, while making a recipe, which particular stock store or storage store needs to be affected upon sale of this particular product. So if we say this is going to affect the main store when we sell this particular recipe items, then upon the sale of that particular item, the quantities of the ingredients in the main store will be auto reduced by those small portions that we define while making a recipe. If we say it's going to be the kitchen going to be affected, kitchen store something, then when we sell this particular product, these particular small portions used in making the recipe will be auto reduced in the kitchen and in any other store that we define. So that is the purpose of this, and that is what is explained here. So there's that particular aspect of distribution in our other tutorials, which we say that for you to avail a product in a given store, you have to distribute it, which can be accessed of course through that link. We have got the third section, that is the correct measurement. So ensure that the item unit is well set so that we don't have wrong values calculated while making this particular recipe. So we're going to see how that works, and we have this particular conflicting backward or escape, which is fine. So these are fields, and this particular field can be seen here, and we've named it or given it the abbreviation CBS. How is this important? While making this particular recipe, maybe you have been using the system for some time, whereby you were selling a certain product just registered as a static product. For example, a cocktail, which will be a recipe of course, but then you registered cocktail in the system, and I've just been selling it directly from the system without predefining any quantity. And right now you need to create now a recipe to control the stocks of the same product called cocktail. So what you do while creating this particular, now for example, cocktail as a recipe, its recipe, we'll have to get that particular old product code, the barcode or the SKU, and insert it here. For example, if I go to my products list, so that you can see this, and say, I don't know whether we have cocktail. Yeah, we have something here called cocktail soup. I have got a cocktail soup. So this is a recipe I can easily see because of this narrative section. To script as a recipe, just want to choose maybe Crazy Coke here, an item which is not a recipe completely. Yeah, so if I want to create a recipe called Crazy Coke 750 ml, and this particular item initially had been pre-configured or pre-registered in the system, but not as a recipe, I can override this particular settings through this particular section here called enter the conflicting barcode of the old item. So I'll just copy the SKU code of that particular old product, paste it here, and of course we are going to see while creating this particular product or recipe later on how the system overrides and updates that particular product appropriately. So that is the purpose of the conflicting code. Now we get now down to the business of creating a recipe. Of course, I've sampled my conflicting code of 0119, and I'm going to create a recipe, and I'll call it just take this name, Crazy Cook recipe. This is the name of the final product that will be selling. What is the unit of this particular final product? Is it in terms of plates, cups, pieces, dozens, and any other thing? So you can define that, and of course you can always add this particular unit in the configurations. If you just come to the configurations, units, you can always set the units here. You can add and remove. Yeah, that is in our old tutorials. So I'll select that bowl category. Now this is the category of this particular recipe item. So of course maybe I can say this which category should I choose here? Maybe sodas or snacks. Let me just say so. What is the tax type? Do I want to tax this or exempt it from the VAT? Or if brands apply, you can select a brand. It's not a compulsory field anyway. What is the affected store? Explain this, and I'm going to say that we should extract this particular stock from the main store and now add our recipe items. So the recipe items include the components that are going to be used to create this particular Crazy Coke recipe. So Crazy Coke, let me just say cocktail, Crazy Cocktail recipe. I'll get a 4th street. What is the measurement? I'll need like 0.2 of that, and you see the price is automatically calculated. That is 0.2 of that particular item price. I'll add another item here, and I'll take also that, and I'll need 0. Oh, okay, cannot do anything less. 0.5 of that, and I can even add more items, for example that, and I'll need 0.1 that particular item. And of course you can see I can also remove. If I added some row which I don't want, I can remove using that button. So this calculates by doing an addition of 124, 865 and 53, which should be the cost of the raw materials, totaling to 1,042 shillings. That is 1042. So we have got this particular section: mark price, markup percentage, and markup price. So if I want to add like a markup price, I can statically define it here and say I want to sell this particular recipe item at 2,000. Alternatively, if I want to use percentages, I can just still enter percentages here and say maybe I want to give it a markup of 20%, 30%, 40%. Though it's not a compulsory field. This is the most important field where we define the actual price that this particular item should go for. Now considering things like electricity cost, labor, these other expenses that are accrued or that are that come along making this particular recipe. So that is the price. Of course, we have what a conflicting code. That means you're trying to tell the system this item called Crazy, remove it and replace it with this particular recipe that we're currently creating. Then I can make my recipe active or not active. So by making it active, that means you avail it in the POS section so that the waiters or the attendant that is available can now be able to see this particular recipe item and sell it appropriately. So I'm going to leave it as inactive currently and then just submit. Right, and here we have our Crazy Cocktail recipe already created. Now you can see that in this particular section you have the unit, final unit of this item, the price, the category, which particular store should be affected, whether it should be VAT or exempted, whether it's active or not active, and the 3 buttons to view, edit, and delete. In this particular section, we have got our recipe code already auto-generated here, and I'll just note it down. You can note it down with me. That is 0263, and this now forms part of our item list. We are going to create a new recipe, and in our recipe, just as we defined, we are going to show you how this conflicting barcode or product is going to come about. Now, I'll pick a recipe and I'll call this particular recipe Test 1 recipe. I'll give it units, maybe it's in terms of tots or bottles. Let me just say plates. I'll get it a category. I'll call it snacks. I'll charge it VAT. What is the affected store? I'll say the main bar. and select the item. So I'll select 4th Street to be one of my particular recipe item, and I'll take 0.2 of the unit. That is the 4th Street unit. We can see the price. I'll pick another item. I'll go with that particular item. Now let me change this to banana juice to make this particular recipe. It can be a cocktail. I'll take maybe 0.3 of that. You can see the price. Add a final item, randomly pick black ice. I'll take 0.25 of that. So to avoid a lot of decimal, I'll just say maybe 0.4 of that particular item. So with this particular recipe set items, we can see, of course, the prediction in terms of price, cost of the raw material, which is 361.20 shillings. That is just a summation of 124, 180, and 57.2. So I can define how much or what is the price that this particular recipe item may go for. So that is what you do in this particular section. That is the markup percentage or the markup price. So you can decide to use either. This helps you to give a percentage of markup that you want. So for example, if I say I want to give it a markup of 40%, then my final selling price will be 505 shillings, 0.68. Yeah. If I don't want to work with percentage, I can just give it maybe a flat figure here of can delete that, give it a flat figure here of 600 shillings. So that at least I'll know that in the 600 I've captured the cost of electricity, labor, and any other charges in this particular item production. Then I'll mark the item as active or not active. If I make it active, it will be visible for the waiters and the cashiers to sell. If it's not active, that means it will be hidden from them and they'll not be able to sell it at the point of sale. We have what this particular conflicting barcode here. And as I said, this in case we already have an item or we initially register an item, call it test one recipe, or even an item with similar features or similar characteristics, and we would like to replace that particular item in our item list with this particular new recipe, then we'll go get that item and paste the code here. So in this case, I'll just select a random item. And I'll select ATC, for A7TC item, which is a random item I just selected. And we'll see how this particular item is transformed, of course. So I'll get the code, and the code is 0174. That is the code of our old item that we'll want to replace with this particular new recipe. Take the code, copy it, come here, paste it. I'll leave it as inactive and submit. Recipe created. So we have that particular recipe. I'll just search for it here. And we have what test one recipe created. So our recipe code is 0270, as you can see. So with this is the CBS, and the CBS, as we saw in the form, is this particular section abbreviated as conflicting barcode or SKU. It's also listed below that particular recipe code. And we all know that this recipe has already been registered in our item list. So if we navigate to our item list and search for a recipe item called test one, we'll see it here with the product 270. Now we want to merge, or rather replace, this particular old item, the old item of the code, or with the code 0174. We want to replace the name and some of these parameters with our new recipe that has been created. So then what do? We come here, in the recipe section that you created, click on that particular old code. It will prompt you, are you sure you want to merge this recipe with the item? And I'll just say yes. And in a second or a millisecond, that action shall have been complete. So if I search for my recipe called test1, you can see in this particular recipe, we have got the product has changed from the 0270 to the old code that we needed to, of course, replace the item parameters to the 0174. And if we search for this item here, this is the old one. You can see it was ATC, it was bottled beers and all that. So I'll not cancel that, but I'll come here and search for the same product 0174. And I'll see that it has changed. The category is snacks. This is the new price. This is the new unit. And of course, the new name of that particular item. So these particular details will be gone and we'll have the same code replaced into merging and merged into our new recipe item. And of course, the old recipe code shall have also been gone. That is the 270. You will not find it here. And even in the particular recipe section, you will not find that particular code as 270. So that is how to merge this particular old items with our new recipe. And that only applies if you have an item already registered and you just want to create a recipe to replace that particular item. That is how to create a recipe. That is how to merge. And of course, if you want to do other things like set or edit the recipe, is still fine. You can just come view. You'll see the recipe items there and close. If you want to edit, click edit. You can activate this recipe if it is inactive, so that attendants can be able to see it at the point of sale. So if I just click or rather update this particular recipe and make it active, we will have it, of course, active. I'll just search for it and see it as active, and it's in the main bar. So at the point of sale, I'll just go back to sales and click POS. If I came here to search for the recipe product, I didn't find it, the test1 and that is because I'm selling from the main bar and this particular item has not been redistributed to the main bar. So then the final stage that I should do as a user is to come to the stocks, that is under products, then you have stocks, go to redistribute items, select that particular main bar or whichever store that you have, that is the selling point you have, search for the product, the recipe product, just one recipe, mark it, leave that as distribute and just click submit. And that will avail now this particular test1 recipe product at the point of sale. So if I just search for the item name, I'll see my test1 product. So that is how to build a recipe, how to make it available at the point of sale, making it active, and redistributing, that is if it is still not available or visible in this particular window. That is how to make a recipe. So if I do a sale, what will be affected are the ingredients of this recipe. So the ingredient quantity will be affected based on the store which was selected, which is still the main bar. That is how to create a recipe.